Hey, it's the Dukesip here. I want to give you my first impressions of the FinWhale Smart Chlorine Dispenser and talk about my Home Assistant integration that I built over the last couple of days. Now, this device, I don't know how long this company has been around. I seem to be a very early adopter of it. There's not a lot of reviews or videos. When I was looking at what I was going to buy for my pool, I looked at a lot of different things and landed on this, kind of unseen with very little information. So I want to put this out there so that you can determine if this is a device that you want to buy, get some real information out there from a real consumer, not affiliated with SunnyWhale in any way. I just bought this thing. They did not know I was going to write a review or post a video when they sent it to me. So this is like an authentic, off the shelf product, right? Now, I'm also not a professional YouTuber, so there's going to be no fancy animated introduction and music. It's just me talking to the camera for this time that we're going to be here today. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? I want to give you my first impression and help you determine, is this something that you want to buy? Is this going to work for you, for your use case? There may be a couple gotchas in here, so I want to tell you about them so that you can think about that first, but help you be prepared. Okay, I'm going to tell you about what my questions were when I was waiting for this thing to show up at my house and answer them. And I'm going to do those things right up front. You don't have to fast forward to the end of the video, right up front. If you want to keep watching, I'll tell you a little bit about who I am and why you may or may not want to care about my opinion whatsoever. That's fine. And if you want to stick around for even more, I'll give a little more technical discussion about this device and the app and all the associated things. We'll talk through it, and then I'll show you the Home Assistant integration. If you're a super nerd like me, and you're thinking about, well, you have Home Assistant running in your house, you've got tons of stuff on there, you want to put your pool telemetry up there too. Maybe you want to have integration with an e-ink screen that you want to put up by your pool. I already got that. I'm going to show you. So yeah, it's going to work. So let's talk through all these things, right? So what is my first impression? Okay. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit excited. So I actually love this thing, right? I maintain a pool. I'm not a pool expert. I've had a pool for, I don't know, 7 years, maybe eight. When I bought my house, I was told it was a 16,000 gallon in-ground pool. I guess I've never actually tried to calculate the volume. I'm just going with that. So I'm a person who goes out there every morning and uses test strips to figure out where all my levels are at. Like, where's the chemistry at, right? And I know test strips are bad. I've had a hard time getting a really good test kit. I suppose I should just order one online and try to figure it out. But could I reduce the amount of testing I have to do with something like this? And the answer so far is yes. Okay, so I've had this in my pool for a week. Actually, 1 week and 14 hours, I would say. It has been the only thing chlorinating my pool in that period of time. I haven't shocked the pool. I haven't had chlorine I haven't put it in the skimmer or had any other floater in the pool. There's been nothing else. So 1 week and my pool has not turned green. It is perfectly clear. Actually, looking at the levels and the history of the chemistry in the pool, if we trust the readings, which we'll talk about a little bit, I think it's been great. I'm super excited about this. So that's why I want to share this with you. I actually love this thing so far, right? Now, just because I love this thing and it works for me, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work for you. Okay. I want to make sure that, if you're looking at this, you have all your questions answered, right? Or is this right for your use case? Okay. So, do you want to reduce your testing? And no, it measures temperature, pH, free chlorine, and ORP levels of your pool. It does not measure your chlorine stabilizer levels. Okay, it does not measure your alkalinity. So you probably want to continue to measure those, or you may have you can kind of get an idea of your alkalinity from your pH, but it's not a guarantee. You can kind of get an idea of your stabilizer level by how much the sun affects the free chlorine in your pool, right? But you also need to measure it separately to be sure. So If you want, you probably want to do these things if you're a pool owner. So, first question answered, probably yes. Okay. Do you want to automatically chlorinate your pool and keep the levels consistent, right? One of the great things about this is you load it up with chlorine tablets and it doesn't waste them if your chlorine levels are high enough. It actually shuts down and doesn't expose the chlorine to the pool, as far as I can tell, anyways, right? So you're actually going to save a little bit of chlorine and not get your levels too high. Conserve it, maybe save you a little bit of money. I know, boy, during the start of COVID or that second year of COVID, chlorine was through the roof. I think there was like a shortage or something, right? Not the case anymore, but I did just buy a huge bucket a couple weeks ago. It was very expensive. So, help you save money. You're not wasting chlorine. Now, here's a good one. If you're someone who travels a lot and you've struggled to keep your chlorine levels good while you're away, maybe you shock the pool before you go away, or you load it up with chlorine tablets before you go away, or you give instructions to a family member or a neighbor, and you probably can't ask them to go test it and read the test and figure out how much. Like, you just got to tell them, okay, on Wednesday put in 2 tablets, and then if it's a longer trip, okay, then on Saturday or Sunday can you do 1 tablet? Or you have to kind of guess, and you don't know what's going on. So if you travel a lot, if you want to keep your pool chlorinated, I think this is great for you. Now, the next two things maybe is going to make this not work for everybody. Okay, number one, do you have good Wi-Fi coverage around your pool? Now, this device uploads the telemetry through Wi-Fi. Okay, it's not using local Bluetooth to your phone or anything like that, so you don't have to be home, but it needs Wi-Fi. So, I'm very fortunate. I'm a big nerd, so I have multiple access points for Wi-Fi around my property. So I have fantastic Wi-Fi coverage up on my pool. However, the Wi-Fi radio in this, maybe the antenna, and when we get to technical discussion, I'll talk a little bit more about this. I don't know if it's just, I don't want to get too technical right now. It may not have the best coverage, the best reception on the device. So you might need really good coverage. If your pool's on the fringe, it might not get great reception out there. So it is important to me at this point to recommend that you have good Wi-Fi out by your pool. If you don't, depending on how technical you are, what kind of router you have, or if you have one straight from your service provider, they might provide like a mesh system that you can plug in and extend your coverage. That may be a workable solution for you, but I do think this is important to mention, right? And here's another one, and this is not a criticism, but it's an important point. Okay, are you willing to work with the uncertainty and risk of buying a product from a startup? Okay, from what I can tell, SunnyWhale is a startup. They're pretty new. I don't know if they're going to be around next year. Okay, how many of these are they going to sell? Do they have funding? What kind of funding do they have? That, of course, that information is not public. They're a privately held company, at least at this point. We don't know anything about it. So there's a little bit of risk there. You're going to invest in this device. Allegedly, the sensor or the probe lasts 1 year and needs to be replaced. Are they going to be around next year that you can buy a replacement probe? Are they going to be around next year to host the infrastructure that this uploads data to and that the app talks to and gives you your data? That if they're not around, that's not going to work very well, right? That replacement probe, what is it going to cost? We don't know because it's not on the website right now, right? Is it going to be $50? Is it going to be $500? Probably somewhere in the middle, if I had to guess, okay? And you'll need to invest in that every year to keep this thing running. So there's a little bit of uncertainty and risk. Another thing we'll talk more about at a technical level is with startup, potential security flaws in the infrastructure, in the API that they use to deliver data to your mobile app. Maybe not a huge privacy concern. Do you really care if somebody sees what the pH and chlorine level of your pool is and they don't know where you live? Maybe you don't even care, right? But these are risks that you get sometimes with these startups that aren't like well established, okay? So just things to think about. But what were my initial questions when I ordered this thing, right? First of all, does the thing work and how accurate is it? Okay, so far I can say that it works. It's been delivering chlorine to my pool. You can see it has multiple states that it gets into where it's either shutting off the chlorine from the water. It's kind of like actively letting it flow through the chlorine and chlorinating your pool, or there's a more active or enhanced motor state. I'm gonna get use some of the names from the APIs and things, where the best I can tell, without opening the thing, and I'm not going to open it because it's watertight, or should be. There's a pump or a motor with a turbine or something that actually pushes the water over the chlorine to kind of like get more chlorine into your pool if your risk of your free chlorine is getting too low, right? So it has been doing that so far. I can monitor the levels. I see it chlorinating the pool. It's kept me in good levels. Maybe I'll show some of that data in a little bit. Now, how accurate is it? And like I said, I am not a pool expert. I don't have a super sophisticated chemistry testing kit. I do have one for free chlorine, better than the test strips. But I got to tell you, I can't tell the difference between all the different shades. I am not colorblind. I've never been colorblind in my life, but like I just can't tell. It does not work for me. So, digital reading works for me. How accurate is it? I don't know. Maybe we need to wait for a video from somebody more knowledgeable in that area. I can tell you in the manual, they do list some accuracy for the different parameters, right? So pH is plus or minus zero point 0.2. For that, temperature plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit. Temperature I'm not worried about. That's a pretty well solved problem with solid state sensors and things. So 1 degree Fahrenheit, fine for me. Your free chlorine level, if it's low between 0 and 2, it's 0.5 parts per million. If it's between 2 and 4, it's 1 parts per million. And they don't really list an accuracy if it's higher than 4. So now for a casual pool person that just wants to keep their pool clear, if these accuracy numbers are true, this is good enough for me. Okay, if my pH is 7.2 or 7.4 or 7.6, I don't care. My free chlorine level, it's 1.5 or 2 or 2.5, like, don't really care too much as long as it's in a decent range. So if these numbers are good, we're good. Okay. My second question, oh, this is a good one. How well does the solar charging work, or how often am I going to need to recharge this? Okay, so I charge this to 100% the night before I put it in my pool. I put it in the morning, and I've been monitoring the battery level every day just to see how, do I have to charge this thing every week? That's going to be a huge pain. So the answer to that is no. The solar charging, as brand new unit, works fantastic. On sunny days, the charge level will go higher than it started the day. On cloudy days, maybe drop like 5% today. And we're going to look at some of my data for today when we get to Home Assistant. Today was like a dismal, gray, cloudy day, torrential downpour in the late afternoon, thunderstorms. There was very little sunlight today. I think it went down about 5%. We'll look at it. But, between alternating that with the sunny days, I mean, I live in New England. We don't get like direct overhead sunlight beating down on us all day. We get the gray days. We get the diagonal sunlight. I've got huge trees blocking the sun. I get maybe 6 hours of direct sunlight on my pool every day, which I think for the United States is probably on the lower end. Obviously, Alaska during some seasons has less, but for most of the contiguous U.S., I think I'm on the lower end of that, right? So uh, I'm happy. I think I might be able to go the rest of the summer without plugging this thing in to charge it. Now, we're going to guess that this uses a lithium battery, lithium ion battery, or some form of lithium. Lithium batteries do fade over time, I'm going to call it, right? So just between all the charge cycles, temperature fluctuations, dendrites developing in lithium, technical stuff, the lifetime of the battery, or the amount of energy that it can hold, does go down over time. But I would expect it to last at least a few years before you're really struggling with the battery. So I think it's good here. Um, will it get stuck in front of my skimmer? Okay. This thing's floating around my pool. My skimmer is sucking in water. I was worried about, I'm gonna put this in 20 minutes later, it's gonna be stuck in front of the skimmer. It's gonna block all the debris from going in there, and I'm gonna have to go out there. I'm gonna have to figure something out, put it on a tether or something. Um, so in general, this doesn't really happen. This thing just kind of floats around the pool. I've seen it circle around the deep end for hours. I've seen it circle around the shallow end. I've seen it do figure eights. It has occasionally gotten stuck in front of the skimmer, but that has not been like a daily problem for me at this point. And it seems to free itself. Certainly you don't have the pump on 24 hours a day, so gonna let loose when the pump goes off anyways and start floating around. Even when it's stuck there, I think that the occasional breeze just kind of like moves it just enough. It kind of frees itself, so hasn't been a big deal for me so far, which is great news. Now, can I integrate it with Home Assistant? So the answer, there was no Home Assistant integration for this when I received it, of course, but I have built one. It works great. Maybe I can quickly make a sneak preview. Okay, so if you don't know what Home Assistant is, I'll talk more about it later. You can skip this part. But I am new to Home Assistant, so I don't have a lot of stuff in here. But I can show you, where is it? FinWhale, here it is. So you'll see there's redacted, right? I don't have it on the script to like filter out my serial number and my device ID and some of the other information on the screen. But I have all my telemetry here. Like we can just look at the battery life. Let's see, we'll show it for a longer period of time. So I got this Home Assistant integration working last night. You can see my battery. It was a cloudy day, so I didn't get a lot of charge out of the sun today. Battery went down from 85 to 80. That's not so bad. That's 5%. But yeah, I have all the telemetry here. And in fact, I also have, because I'm using Home Assistant and these integrations are easy, I have an e-ink display showing all my telemetry from the pool as well. So we'll talk about sneak preview. We'll talk about that more later. But the answer to this was yes. So very excited about that. All right. Moving on. Okay, so that's all the meat and potatoes if you're just trying to get a first impression of this thing, right? I'm going to talk a little bit more about it now. Should you care about my opinion, first of all, right? So let me just tell you a little bit about myself and my background. So I am a pool owner. I'm definitely not a pool expert. I'm not a pool chemistry expert. I have been, actually this summer, I have been watching YouTube videos about pool chemistry and trying to learn more. So I can't share a lot of knowledge in that area. But what I can share knowledge on is like the engineering side. So I've been in the engineering field for, I don't know, 20, 25 years. I've got 30, probably more than 30 years of being a hacker, right? So in fact, one of my specialties is reverse engineering embedded systems or electronics, web application, security testing and analysis, and let's see, I mentioned embedded devices. I like reverse engineering embedded devices, right? So I know a lot about this. I have a lot of background in radio communication. I have 11 patents in radio communication protocols, specifically more targeted towards the potable water industry or drinkable water. But that's just kind of the projects that have fallen in my lap, I would say, that I've worked on, right? So I love building things. I love dissecting electronics and figuring out how they work, but I'm not a pool expert. Okay. So what's next? The tech talk. Okay. So the device, and I wish I had it here in front of me so we could like pick it up and look at it, but it's in my pool because I love it so much, right? So yeah, it looks like a small shredder that you would keep under your desk or something, right? Like one you would get from Staples. It's about that size, like a smaller shredder. It has a cylinder in the center. You load up 6 chlorine tablets, and you put it in. You put it in the pool, and you just kind of like you set it up on your phone and you let it do its thing. It uses Wi-Fi to communicate up to the cloud, and then the mobile app on your phone, iOS or Android, talks to the cloud, and you can look at the data, right? Now, The Let's talk about the Wi-Fi. Okay, so the internals of this thing, it's using. We're getting into the nerd talk now, right? So it's using an ESP32 S3, I believe, which is a low cost, low power, very common microcontroller, especially for this type of device these days. And I say integrated Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. These come, some versions of these come with like an integrated antenna on the circuit board on the PCB. I don't know if this one is using the default from the company that makes them is called Expressive. I don't know if they're using the Expressive circuit board PCB. If they've designed their own, which you can certainly do with the ESP32s, or if they're using some kind of external antenna, external PCB antenna. I mean, there's so many types of antennas that this could be using. Now, my observations, I have a wired access point about 15 feet away from my pool. And like it's 16,000 gallon, it's maybe medium sized pool. So it's not enormous. I get killer Wi-Fi out by my pool, and that's the reason I have the access point out there, right? Because we spend a lot of time out there. Um, Now, from I have a pretty sophisticated network equipment. I can see what the Wi-Fi reception of all the devices on my network are. I can see the history. It logs the history. From my network's perspective, from my Wi-Fi's perspective, the reception on this thing has been excellent, crystal clear, killer Wi-Fi coverage all hours of the day for the entire week. Now, if I look at the history of the Wi-Fi, this device does report in three levels of Wi-Fi signal. It reports like strong, fair, and weak, I believe, are the three signal strengths that reports. It spent a lot of time in fair and weak, and very little time in strong. So there could be a lot of things, right? It could just be that the way that the thresholds of the signal strength or signal to noise ratio, whatever numbers they're using to calculate this, they could just have the threshold set really high, so it just says, well, it's fair or it's poor. It could be that it has a very small antenna or non-optimal antenna and it doesn't have great reception. But I'll tell you what, it's worked all week. I haven't had any issues. I would be nervous if you have a one Wi-Fi router inside your house, very far away from the pool area. You go out there with your phone and you barely have Wi-Fi or you don't have Wi-Fi. I think you would need to invest in some kind of Wi-Fi extender and another access point, depending on what you've got going. I think it needs a pretty good Wi-Fi signal out there, at least from what I can tell. So I think I mentioned before, the device has three states. There's actually four states that I can tell so far in the app and in the API, right? So they've got the doors closed state, which I've seen mine in. So that is the water is shut off from touching the chlorine. So you're conserving chlorine, right? Your pool does not need new chlorine. I've seen mine in that state. I've seen mine in the regular what's it called? It's in right now. Regular dispensing state. So I think, and I don't know this, my presumption from some observations is that it's opened those doors that allows the water to flow over the chlorine, much like any other chlorine floater that product that you could buy, right? It floats around the pool, the chlorine touches the water, it dissolves over time. Um, it also has the enhanced dispensing state, which I mentioned before. I think there's a motor or pump or turbine, something is like actively flowing water over the chlorine to get you more, because you need it at a more accelerated pace. Those are the three states that I've seen. According to the app, because you can put this into a manual control and you can set the state yourself. There is a fourth state called idle, I believe. I don't know what that does. I have no idea what difference that is from doors closed or regular dispensing. Maybe idle just leaves it in whatever state it was in before, shuts off the motor. I don't know. I don't know if it ever enters that state or if that state doesn't do anything special. Maybe they're going to take that out of the app eventually. I'm not sure exactly what that does. Um, we talked about the recharging, the solar recharging, even in New England where I get 6 hours of direct daylight on the pool on a sunny day, seems to, even having that every other day. would hold. It would probably stay charged indefinitely throughout the summer at this point. So, I talked about some of the potential downsides of lithium over a period of years, but certainly over 2 to 3. I would expect the battery to last at least 2 or 3 years before you're even questioning the like has it degraded a little bit from what I've seen. I think it's what it was in the manual. I think it was like 5,000 milliamp hour, 5 amp hours of power. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it said. Um, what else can I talk about on the device? I don't know. I think that's it. The device. Okay, so it's running an ESP32S3. It does. I'm not going to talk too much about this. It does run a web server. There is a debug page on there. You have to bypass the authentication. So you have to log into it, and they don't tell you what the credentials are. I'm not going to talk any more about that at this point. But there's some interesting things going on the device that maybe I'm going to want to talk about what they could do with that. Actually, that's why it's important for me to at least mention there is a web server on there. Um, but we can talk about the app. And because I'm not like a big reviewer, I don't have some fancy app that's going to mirror my phone on my screen. So I have a couple of screenshots here. Um, so two screenshots, you can scroll through this page. So I'm trying to show like the top half and the bottom half basically, right? So at the very top, lovely graphic that shows you what state your pool's in. Is it healthy? Does it have chlorine? Is it too chlorinated? I show these are the images that get displayed as the background for some of the different states. Healthy. I think the white one or the clear one is. I think if it needs more chlorine, I'd have to go back and look. There may actually be a fourth image for that. The red one is when you're too chlorinated, but also if your pH is low, it will tell you there's like where it says enjoy your pool. It will tell you, hey, your pH is too low. My pH was too low when I put this in, and I knew it was too low. And I honestly, before I fixed it, I was kind of waiting for this to show up because I had an idea of when I was getting it. So I could monitor the pH as I was adding sodium bicarbonate and a little bit of soda ash as well in the end as I measured my alkalinity and stuff. But that's pool chemistry. That's not this video, right? Then you go down, it's got your 4 major stats. It's got your free chlorine level. The beautiful graph, it shows you the range that it's targeting. It's targeting between 1 and 4. I often hear people targeting between 1 and 5 or 2 and 5. That's fine. I don't care that it's 1 and 4 or 2 and 5. Like, I think that the targets they've set up are fine. The level you see 3 minus, right? So they don't display like 2.8. They just say, okay, 3 minus. It's a little bit under 3. It's 2 plus, 2.2, 2.1, 2.3 is 2 plus. Once it gets below 1, it does show you the decimal. So you can, like, are you 0.9 or are you 0.5? It does show you that. And that's a UI thing. The data's all there in the back end. But it's just the way they display it, which I think is fine. You don't need to know more than that, right? You're good. 3 minus, great level. pH, I took this as I was getting my pH when I started was like 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, something like that. I knew I had a low pH, and I was waiting for this. So I was bringing it up, but that's when I was at a 7.2, which is good. But I actually overshot it a little bit. I'm at a 7.6 right now, which is fine, but it's overshot where I was trying to be. It's fine. As you scroll down, you get the temperature. Temperature for me, this is a killer. So I have a pool heater. I don't leave it on all year round. I turn it on and off when we're gonna have a party or when I know we're gonna have a day, like we're all gonna be in the pool. But I do want to know I wake up in the morning. What is the temp in the pool? Should I go turn the heater on? If I want to go in the pool, maybe I'll even turn on the night before and leave the pump on overnight or something, right? Like, let me warm up the pool. I can't figure out what the temperature is without going out there and turning the heater on and going out and looking at the temperature on the heater. So this is a great way for me to remotely watch the temperature, know what it is at all times. ORP, that is like the ability for your water to kill foreign substances. Probably a more technical way to say it. That's not my area of expertise, but there's a button you can do an instant check. So you can do I'm going to call it like an on-demand read, right? It takes 20 seconds, maybe 10. I don't know. I haven't not timed it. Then at the bottom, your battery health. It will tell you it's charging. It'll tell you it's charging if it's plugged in. If it's getting great energy from the sun and solar, it will say it's charging, even though it's not plugged in. Right here, it tells you like your battery's going up, it's not going down, which I think is a fantastic feature to tell you, like, give you that confidence that, like, okay, my battery's not dying, it's going up. Is it online? The kid lock. I don't think this is a feature that's implemented yet, but maybe in the future. The instruction manual talks nothing about any button sequence that activates or deactivates a kid lock. There are buttons on the device that, like, you can do an on-demand read, you can reboot it, you can shut it off. If we go and look at the API, the back-end communication, all the data that comes into the app says the kid lock is set to false, which to me means disabled, but it could be flip-flop. Maybe this is a real feature. Maybe it's a future implementation. I don't know what's going to happen there. Your Wi-Fi signal strength, I happen to take this one, it was strong, which is great. What state you're in. We talked about those 3, maybe 4 different states. It tells you what state you're in, and it tells you if your chlorine tablets are getting low. And that we'll talk when we get to the API. We'll talk about. I believe it's measured by some kind of pressure sensor. So interesting to speculate how that works and what the threshold is. I haven't actually determined it yet because I haven't gone through all 6 of my tablets. It's only been a week. Those 6 tablets are going to last me at least 2 weeks, if not longer. But I'm going to kind of leave them in there and see how it goes. So that's the app. I will say, okay, so we talked about the fact that this is an Espressif ESP32. This entire platform from the firmware, presumably from the firmware. I have not reverse engineered the firmware yet. That's a whole different video and talk. And I probably don't want to. I don't have time to do that. So not going to happen unless somebody wants. SunnyWhale wants to pay me. I don't know why they would, but no, that's not going to happen. So then the APIs, all the cloud infrastructure, and then the application are all written using a framework by Espressif called ESP Rainmaker. Is it Espressif Rainmaker or ESP Rainmaker? It's a very common IoT Internet of Things protocol. Basically, allows you to build the whole infrastructure, build the sensor, build the mobile application, deploy it. All works together in one framework and package. So certainly no criticism there. It's a very powerful framework to allow you to rapidly develop these types of systems. It's great. No surprise that they're using it. Okay. I will say about the application, there may be some bugs. Like if I press the instant check button and it will do what I call an on-demand read, and then I have an iPhone, right? I swipe up to like minimize the app. I don't force close it. Just minimize and move on to doing something else or shut my phone off. I come back later and open the app. Sometimes it sends another on-demand read when I open the app. Okay. And that type of behavior also happens like there is a configuration page where you can do a check to see if there's updated firmware for the FinWhale. If I push that button and minimize the app and then come back later and open it, sometimes it says, hey, I'm doing a check to see if you have new firmware. Minor application bug, right? And I'm sure something that if I've seen it, they've certainly seen it. They're aware of. It's probably coming out a fix for it eventually. So like minor things, but I'm just mentioning it because I want to talk about everything and be totally transparent. So I think that's all I have to say about the app. There is also, I say that and then there's more. The middle tab there is the history, right? So you can look at a graph of the last 24 hours of any one of these metrics. And I kind of wish that I had taken a screenshot of it now. Let me actually waste your time. I'm going to open it up right now and show you. Right. So here's, let's see what it looks like. Right. So you can see like a 24-hour graph, right there. Now I think that's all I have to say about the app. So let's see. What's the next thing I want to talk about? Okay. The API. All right. So, I mean, something that a normal consumer doesn't ever see, but the super nerds are curious, we have to dig in and see how this stuff works. And if you want to build a Home Assistant integration, you have to understand how the API works. So I have looked at the API. I have an example. I couldn't show you in the tool I used to capture it because it's going to have my device's serial number and stuff in it. I didn't want to show that. So I took like a copy of the data and I put it, can we see that? Yeah, let's actually switch to this, right? So every time your mobile device talks to the cloud to get the data, retrieve the data for your FinWhale, this is the kind of stuff you see in there, right? It starts off, you could have multiple devices. This is like a list of devices. There's a lot of description of the type of data that's going to send, and there's only a small portion of this that is actual data. Now, I'm not going to go through and talk about all these fields, but I will talk about the most interesting one. Let's see, the pressure sensor raw. This is the field that I think they're using to determine if your chlorine is getting empty or not. And this is a number, it goes up over time as chlorine gets used. At least mine has. So try to imagine in my head, like, how does that work? Is it like a pressure sensor that is facing down, and then there's like a spring that's pushing up on the chlorine? I certainly didn't notice that. Or is it somehow the water in the chamber, they can tell by the pressure how much volume it's occupying? I don't know. And I mean, I don't really care, but I'm an engineer. I'm super curious, right? So I'm curious to see what the threshold is, what that number gets to when the application says you need to put more chlorine. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. The other thing that's really interesting that is not exposed to the user, I hope that SunnyWhale doesn't hate me for talking about this, but like, this is your data, right? Your probe lifetime. Okay, so this is a number that when you first install the device, starts at 0. Presumably, because it says it's a percent, right, PCT, presumably when it gets to 100, you need to replace your probe. So this counts upwards from 0. So I've had this a week and I'm at 1.76. So if we round that up to 2%, 2% a week, 52 weeks a year, it's about, and it is under 2%. So that's about 100% in 52 weeks, right? So yeah, I don't know if this is calculated just based off of time. So like they're just going to make it expire exactly 1 year after you've installed the probe, or if it actually counts the number of reads that it's done. And again, like, I'm not asking them to tell us. This is just like curious stuff, right? I know I'm talking about all the nerd stuff today. The only other thing I'll say about the, I'm going to switch back to the slides here. We don't need to leave that open forever. Is that it? Yeah. The API, so there's a pretty good authentication model for getting your data. I believe that there are some improvements that could be made around the authentication. I did email customer service at FinWhale with some information, and to their credit, I did get a response back within 24 hours, and it was not like a ignorant response. It was a technical response. I don't necessarily agree with some of the response. I certainly do agree with other parts of the response. I don't want to get into too much detail. This is not like a public disclosure. There's no serious vulnerability here, in fact. So it's not a big deal. I see room for improvement. So I'll leave it at that. But they got back to me in 24 hours. So if you have a problem, I would expect that, with your FinWhale in general, customer service to get back to you in 24 hours is phenomenal, and what they quote on their page, right? So that's great. All right, let's talk about Home Assistant integration, right? So I love this device. I want the telemetry. I have thought about building a Home Assistant server for years at my house, and I'm a security person, a privacy person. Right? I am like against having all these IoT devices in my house. I don't see what the point of having my washing machine on the Wi-Fi is, right? I don't have a connected washing machine, but like inevitably, you end up with all these devices, and at some point you say, man, it kind of stinks to have to go into this app and change that. If I want to change my thermostat, because I'm too lazy to get up and touch it. Right? I got to go on this app to do that. But then if I want to go, activate my cleaning robot, I got to go on this other app and hit this button. And then if I want my pool telemetry, I want this. And I envision, especially for this device, right? So this is something that collects like information you want to know before you get in your pool, maybe, especially like more than the chemistry, the temperature, right? I'm outside by the pool. Is the pool freezing or is it warm? I haven't had the heater on for a week. What's it going to be in there? So I envision having like this e-ink e-ink display that I could like hang, in my kitchen. And so, what's the temp in the pool today? Like, do I want to go out and go swimming? I can just look. I don't even have to open up an app. I can just look on the wall, right? But then I envision it to be this thing like, okay, I can pick it up off the wall. I'm going out to the pool, and then I can bring it outside and hang it on a screw out by the pool, we call it the cabana, right? It's like a little house with the fridge in it that when you want drinks by the pool, you have this little house out there, right? Not house, but a little, I don't know, room. You can hang it on there, and then you can say, oh, the pool temp, or you want to look at the chemistry levels, or maybe, you have a party, you want to advertise the fact that your pool is safe to swim in, that the kid, if you got kids coming over the house, that they're not going to get a rash or something, right? So I don't know, be more transparent about the health of your pool, put it out there. So Home Assistant is like a great platform for doing all these things. Right? You could buy an e-ink tablet and you could reverse engineer the API and you could have that thing talk to the cloud and grab your data. Absolutely. So what happens when you want to look at it on your phone? Or, well, I guess you want to look at it on your TV. Well, now you got to build another application. Now you've got two different devices querying the API. That might not make SunnyWhale too happy eventually if you're growing this system with all these devices and multiple people are doing it, right? They got to pay. They got to pay for API calls. They got to pay for data transfer. So I thought about this. Said that Home Assistant is like the perfect solution for this because you could have one place that collects all your data. And then, if you want to send it out to multiple devices, have multiple devices display it, they get the source of truth from Home Assistant. They're not calling the API. So you're not hammering the AWS servers that SunnyWhale has to pay for. Well, not really servers, but the API system and costing them money. I don't want to cost them money, right? They're a startup. I want them to survive. I don't want to send them into the poorhouse. So I looked at the API. I figured out how to get the data. I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, if the pool monitor reads the water every 20 minutes. So say I wanted to query their API every 20 minutes. So that's three times an hour. That's 70, let's just call it 75 times a day. How much is that going to cost SunnyWhale if I do it every day? And it tried to calculate based on some speculation and known prices in AWS. Certainly, we don't know the details of the private contract that Espressif or ESP has with AWS. They probably have like a 50% or more discount. But, and it said, well, it'll probably cost less than a penny or maybe up to 10 cents a month if you do that. And there's also the authentication. The authentication token that you're issued when you authenticate is good for 1 hour, and then you have to renew it or refresh it. So once an hour, you have to make another API call to refresh your authentication token. So let's call it 25 more calls. So you have 100 API calls a day if you want to query this every 20 minutes. Is SunnyWhale gonna be upset with that? I hope not. I hope that they embrace integrations like this because there's not a lot of super nerds out there, but for those that are, I think this would actually draw more people to consider the FinWhale if there's a known good working integration with this kind of thing. It's like, why would I buy something else when I can have this in Home Assistant, right? So I would hope they would embrace it. I will tell you two things. Number one, when I make the API calls, and this is more technical stuff, there's a string or field when you make a web request. I'm trying to simplify the terms for people too. It's called user agent. And of course, the ESP Rainmaker has their own user agent when you're using that application. I have chosen when I make the calls through Home Assistant or the library that I wrote to make the API calls, I have set the user agent to a very specific string so that if SunnyWhale wanted to, they can identify this traffic and they could block it if they so choose to, right? They could run, or maybe they just want to run metrics on it and see, well, how many people are actually doing this? So I have done that because I think that being more transparent is the way to go. I don't want to be stealthily doing this and distributing it and have them mad at me. I'd rather, like, worst case, open a conversation. If this, I don't think it's going to cost them barely anything, but if they decide that it is, would they be willing to do like a subscription model? Like, hey, we're going to allow you to call the API 100 times a day, but you got to pay $1 a month or $5 a month. I would pay for that. I think that a lot of people that would want this kind of stuff would pay for that too. Like, not $50 a month, but like maybe $50 for the year. Sure, why not? I would do it. I don't know if everybody would, but so if this is a problem, I hope that SunnyWhale would at least like consider thinking about some kind of model like that, embracing this, coming up. If they love it, they could build their own Home Assistant integration. They can make it better than mine, right? You can take mine and you can fork it, right? It's open source. It's on GitHub. Fork it and make your own. I'll maintain it. If you like what I'm doing, you want to embrace it, like I'll keep maintaining this. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I guess I should like show um, show a little bit more of Home Assistant, right? So when this is a custom integration at this point. It's not like so I have instructions on the GitHub of how you install it. I think they'll work. If they don't, if anybody tries this, and please reach out to me and we'll fix the instructions, right? So so you go into settings, we go into device and services, we can go to FinWhale. We have our device. If you had multiple devices, I don't. I'd like to test that. I don't have multiple, but in theory, you would actually get multiple devices here. They do have their own unique name or serial number or whatever. They'll show up as different devices here. And each one of these properties is an entity. Now, I'm super new to Home Assistant, so I don't know. Like, I got to learn more about Home Assistant before I say that this is like a really great integration. Like, what fits into sensors? What fits into diagnostic? What other categories? I need to group this a little bit better. What I'd like to do is create what's called a card. So this is the raw device, but you can build, and I'm not going to show these. You can build these like areas of your house. You can build them by room. You can build your own dashboard. So I built this backyard dashboard, which I'm not going to show the other information that's on there. When you build a card, it's like a custom UI that uses only the telemetry that you want to show and represents it and shows it in a way that you want to show it. So what I'd like to do is build a card that looks a lot like the app, because I think that the visualization they have in the app is really cool. So I'd like to build the card and do that. I just wrote this Home Assistant integration last night. So I've not, this is like super alpha, beta, proof of concept level stuff here, right? The data that I have, let's show the battery. So, unfortunately, I just wrote this last night, and today was a super gloomy day. So I don't have the data to show you that in a day's time, the battery going up from the charging. Just unfortunate timing. But if I do make a follow-up video or anything, I'm sure, excuse me, I'm sure I'll be able to show that. Let's talk about like the state, right? So you can kind of see the history of overnight. It was doing regular dispensing. Then during the sunniest parts of the day, we had that enhanced dispensing, that motor, that pump, that turbine, something moving the water over the chlorine. It's moved back to regular dispensing. It looks like there's a little area. Ooh, unknown. I got state 2. So instead of making this video, I should have been monitoring my thing to figure out what state 2 means. But I'm reverse engineering the API, right? So I don't know what all the states mean. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm working on this. You can see the history here of that. What else here would be interesting to show? My pH is not going to be that interesting. It's just kind of been bouncing around between 7.5 and 7.6. Probe life, okay, yeah, you can see this growing, right? So it starts off at 0 when you install it. It looks like, every, what is this? This is 8, 10. This was So that was like 9 hours. Every 9 hours, maybe it goes up by a little, by zero point 0.1 or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to do the math on that later and calculate. Like, does that give you 365 days, or what is that? I sit there and do a couple on-demand reads and see if it like goes up faster. Curious about that. Pressure sensor, like I talked about. Oh, it went down today. Um, that's interesting because I've been seeing it go up, and I thought that this was the measurement of the chlorine level. Now, interesting to me, at noon, at lunchtime today, I did go outside and open the little thing to see how much chlorine was in it. So I wonder if I like kind of reset a little, jostled a little sensor or something like that. That's something I'll have to monitor. And we'll have to follow up on and see what happens there. We talked Wi-Fi quality. We talked about a little bit. Let's show the whole history since last night. So I had fair for a good portion of the day. There was some strong, fair, strong, weak, fair, weak, and that's no more than, let's say, 60 feet away from the access point. That access point, there's a window between the radio and the pool. A typical normal window will give you like 3 dB loss, which, I mean, they could cut your signal in half from line of sight theoretically, but that's not like significant. So it's interesting to me that this is reporting that it's weak. That doesn't mean that the signal is actually weak. That's just like their thresholds of saying signal strength weak. Maybe weak means strong. I feel like Brad Pitt from F1 the movies, like up is down, down is up. There's a few things like that that he said. So weak is strong, maybe in this case. What else? It was a gloomy day. There was not a lot of sunlight, so my temperature is embarrassingly low. Right, I like to see this over 80. It has been up until overnight and today. So temperature dropped. It went up a little bit in the sunlight, but yeah, it's dropped fast today. So that's unfortunate, but not turning the heater on yet. Yeah, so that's that integration. And then let me, I just realized I had that, I should have had this all in here. That was my mistake. I'm new at this. I'm not good at this. And I'm not refilming this whole thing just for that. I'm sorry. But coming back to show, this ESP home integration that I did. So I just did this in like an hour, just to show you the power of Home Assistant. There's a plugin called ESP Home that allows you to build like dashboards for remote devices that have an ESP microcontroller, and then this actually has an ESP32S3 in it as well, just like the FinWhale, same processor, right? So it allows you to build these very quick dashboards for these types of devices around your house. So I wrote this in like 2 hours, and I certainly have things I want to improve on here. You can see that one of the important things, it's like mirrored, it shows you what time Home Assistant updated the data through the API. That does not mean it's the time that the FinWhale took the reading. So that reading could actually be up to 20 minutes old, right? You can see the probe life I inverted. So instead of it saying 2% and waiting to go to 100, I'm doing 100 minus 2, 98%. And when that gets to 0, that's when I would expect to have to replace my probe. So I have this refreshing. Right now I have it refreshing every 5 minutes, but it's not contacting the FinWhale API. It's just contacting Home Assistant to get updated data. So if Home Assistant is up to 20-minute old data, that means that the data on here is up to 25 minutes old, right? Let's see, 20 up to 25 minutes old, I would say. So that's fine for me, right? So I don't know. This is all working too. I think this is cool, nerdy stuff. I think that's it. I don't know how long I've been recording for. I don't think there's anything on my screen that even tells me how long I've been recording for. But thanks for listening. If you made it this far, certainly cool. Certainly willing to see if there are. I'm not going to say subscribe and like and comment. Like, I'm not an engagement farmer. In fact, if there's any way I can shut off monetization of this video, I am. Like, I don't think I'm going to retire off of my FinWhale video here, right? So, But if you do have a comment, please do leave it, and I will try to read them and respond. This isn't my thing, but I'm gonna give it a try just for this because I'm enjoying this so far. So thanks for listening and watching. I'll talk to you soon.